Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast, A Court of Heaven and Hell. I'm Lauren, aka Heaven.
And I'm Ellie. I'm also known as Hel.
And if you don't already know, we are a book podcast that focuses on different romantasy series and novels. Today, we are going to be covering Lightlark by Alex Aster. This episode will include our ratings, review, and thoughts about the books. We will start with a spoiler-free discussion with our ratings before diving into our full-on spoiler-inclusive discussion.
Please see our show notes for content and trigger warnings. We are an explicit podcast for adults. Check out our past episodes. We have a ton of episodes out about Sarah J. Maas books and some other bonus episodes covering Powerless, other popular TikTok books like that. Lastly, take some time to rate and review us, or if you're watching this video on YouTube, please like and subscribe and make sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments. And let's go ahead and get into a spoiler-free discussion of what we thought about Lightlark.
Let's get into it.
Lightlark is a young adult novel about an island that reappears every 100 years to host a game where 6 rulers fight to break their deadly curses. So far, nobody has ever succeeded. The author said that some of the tropes in this book include forced proximity, a love triangle, and enemies to lovers. This is Alex Aster's first YA book being published, and it went viral on TikTok and now is being made into a movie by the same producers of Twilight. So for your rating of Lightlark, Lauren, what did you give it?
Yeah, so I think initially after I finished reading it, I gave it a 4. And then upon some further reflection, I did lower it to 3.75. I do still think that that's pretty generous. I would honestly probably say that in my personal opinion, it's probably a little closer to 3.5, 3.75, like I said. So I'm going to go with 3.75. Obviously, on Goodreads, they don't have the in-between like ratings. You can't do 0.5, 0.75. So that's another reason why I would just go ahead and round it up to a 4. It wasn't bad. I'm not mad that I read it, but it's definitely a first book. It's definitely a debut novel. And it was a good setup for the second book, Night Vane, but I just, on its own, I will probably never go back and read it again.
Initially, for me, I gave this book a really high rating, but same upon further reflection and reading other books since, I have lowered it from. Right now, I'm giving it a 4, which I also think is pretty generous. But I will say I do tend to rate books pretty high.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to not like a book and rate it badly.
Yeah.
For me, the reason why I'm gonna give it a 4 is because it was a little bit of a slow start for me. It took me about half the book to want to read it. I was struggling to read it at first, and I'm like, "Okay." I actually went back and reread the first part because I wasn't really sure what was happening, and I took a break in between. But once I got to the halfway point, I'm like, "Okay, this is picking up. I get what's happening. Like, I'm interested to see where this is going." I would say that I would probably read this book again. The whole series is complete to see if there's any, like, Easter eggs I missed or something. And it is a relatively shorter book. I think it's around 400 pages, so it is more of a lighter read. And I will say the ending did make me want to get to the next book, like, as soon as possible, but that's why I rated it not as high as I typically would. I
Right.
still liked it. Still would recommend to read it, but I would say to have expectations of this is a very YA new author book.
Mm.
So don't go into thinking like, oh, is this going to be like fucking Lord of the Rings? I will say it's a good book to read for a palate cleanse. If you just came from a really heavy book and you're like, oh, I just want something like fun and a little bit easier to digest, I would probably do Lightlark then.
Mhm. I would definitely say that I still recommend it. Still recommend everybody giving it a shot. I could see people really liking this. The reading is so subjective, and sometimes it matters the headspace you're in, what you've read before, what other books you have coming up, other people's opinions, how hyped up something has been. So all of that can affect your opinions. And so that's why I don't just want to sit here and be like, no, it wasn't good. Like, I wouldn't read it. I would recommend it. When I was done, I wasn't upset that I read the book or whatever. I wasn't mad that I finished it. But I will say, I started the book a bit of time before Ellie did, and I finished it a bit after. If she hadn't been like, you need to finish it, it's possible that I would not have finished it, or at least it would have gone on my back burner for a while until I needed something like that to read, and then I maybe would have gone back and revisited it. I wouldn't necessarily say it was like a DNF or anything like that, but I don't know why. I just couldn't get into it. I do feel like a little bit you should be prepared to like just be thrown into the world. But yeah, there were some things that it just took me a minute to really like to grasp on and to be attached enough to want to get into the story and like figure out where it was going. So just go into it with an open mind, with an open heart, give it a chance. It's not bad. It's not bad. I wouldn't say it's poorly written. None of my opinion has anything to do about anything other than just for me personally, it just wasn't top romantasy, top tier. It's not a book I'll be revisiting. It's not a book that like I was telling all my friends and people that I meet need to read this, like nothing like that.
I did actually tell a few people to read this book.
That's cool. Like
I did.
yeah.
I did. Yeah, I did. I feel like this book, the series has potential. And I will say again, this is the first book of the series. And I don't even know how many books this series is supposed to be. I don't know if the author has said so. I'm assuming it's going to be a trilogy, but that's me just assuming. I have no idea. It could be more. Who knows? It made me want to read the second one. And that's why I was like, okay, this is a book I think some people would like. So I recommended it to those people. But
yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, it's great. And when people ask me, like people have asked me like, oh, you read this? Do you think I should read it? I have told them, yes, you should. You should at least give it a shot, because I'm not saying it's bad. Just go in with a grain of salt. Take it for what it is. Don't go in with the idea of, oh, this is such a popular, talked about, hyped up book. Don't do that, because for me, don't do that. Just go into it. Take it for what it is. Give it a shot. And if you don't like it, you don't have to finish it. And if you do like it, then I highly suggest you finish reading it, because it is good. I hope that you take our ratings and review like under advisement. We do still recommend that you give it a shot. And if you do, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. And now, if you have already read Lightlark and you're just here to hang out and listen to us talk about the book, you can keep listening. But if you haven't yet and you're looking for non-spoiler review, this is your time to bow out, come back when you finish the book to hear about the rest of what we had to say. So that being said, starting with what we liked, Ellie, what did you like about Lightlark?
I think the reason why I probably liked it more than other people is because I love a plot twist, a really intense plot twist, and this book really had a really good plot twist, in my opinion. I didn't see it coming. I'm one of those readers that when I'm reading, I'm like, okay, is there going to be a plot twist? Let me try to piece it together and see if I can figure it out. I didn't. I had no fucking idea. I was like, wait, you're telling me that Isla's bestie, Celeste, is actually the villain?
Oh, I loved it.
I was like, I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
I really liked that. Didn't really surprise me about Grimm actually kind of in on it. That didn't surprise me. I personally like the love triangle. I like the love triangle. Okay, I know we have different opinions on that, so I'm sure other listeners can relate to both of us. But I thought the love triangle in this book was well done, because I would end up being like, okay, like Grimm, like the shadow daddy of this book. And I'm like, I'm not really looking at Oro. Like, he's blonde. Like, we all know that.
Yeah.
Like, if he's blonde in a book, you're like, red flag. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the book was about Oro and Isla working together. And I was like, oh, and I could see their chemistry coming together. And I'm like, am I on Oro's side?
Yeah.
So I like that, because it actually did make me feel for both of them, even though Grimm didn't really have the biggest role in this book. But I'm like, but he's like the spooky one, so immediately I already like him.
Yeah.
I did overall like the idea behind the book. So I'm going to say about that. I'll talk about what I disliked about that later. I thought the world building that she had was also a good idea. And I will say I do appreciate that some people might disagree with this actually, but I like that she repeated a few of the world building stuff a few times throughout the book, because I was like, oh yeah, like that's this part. That helped me retain a little bit more of the world building.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I did actually really end up liking her relationship with Oro. I thought that that was so
Mhm.
it's such a good version of enemies to lovers in a way, because it's like they start off not even you're basically liking each other, definitely not trusting each other. And then on the other hand, you have Grimm, who comes on super aggressively right at the start. And it's at the end, you figure out exactly what's going on. But the whole time, I felt like you were supposed to like Grimm because he was so nice to her and into her and all of this. But the whole time I was reading it, I was like, what's this guy's deal? I like him, but something's off about this. Like, he's talking to this bitch like he knows her. He's talking to her. There's some established relationship that we're like not aware of. I was like, what's going on here? Because it's clearly the person who, like, you see the flip. The person who you're supposed to like ends up becoming the person you don't like, and the person that you like are not you don't like at first ends up becoming actually a really good guy who just was not just gonna put himself out there. He needed to see where things lie first. So like I did really like that. Still not a fan of the love triangle, but I'll talk about that later. I don't have to talk about that now, but it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it. It's just I don't like love triangles in general. And then yeah, the plot twist. It was great. It was a great plot twist. It came a little late. If the plot twist wasn't in there, I would have been like, this was not a good book. One of the main things that I actually loved about this book was the friendship between Celeste and Isla. They were so cute. Her trying to save Celeste because of the awful curse that the Starlings have to deal with, and all of that. Finding out that she was Aurora, that she planned the whole thing. It was really, really good. Celeste throughout the whole thing was not my favorite character, but when I found out that Celeste was Aurora and like she had been planning this whole thing and she was like just such a bad, evil bitch, that she was like literally orchestrating things, even though she was evil and what she did to Isla was fucked up, I hate that shit up. I really liked like, I hope that she's not actually dead and she comes back again, because she might have one of the most interesting characters to me in the series so far. That's what I liked about it. Even when they killed all those guys on the beach and Celeste showed up to help her or whatever, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of a baddie. Okay. Even though she's like this soft, sweet, I'm gonna die. I was like, oh no, Celeste got a little fighter in her. And then the twist just made it really, I don't know, solidified for me. I was like, oh yeah, I really like her. And then, like you said, the concept overall is good. The world was cool. The whole 6 realms, like each of them having their own unique ability, each of them having their being punished in a way that would
Mhm.
only affect them if they were somebody who lived with the kind of things that they could. For instance, the Skylings, like taking away their ability to fly. The Nightlings can only go out in the sun. I liked that. If you are a Sunling, of course, the thing you crave the most is the sun, and not being able to do that, like that was good. I liked that. Not taking away the wings. Imagine if they took away the wings of the Illyrians. It's like when people can do these things and you take them away, that's the greatest way to punish them. So I did like that whole system of how each of the courts, how the curses came down on them, and like the world building. And so I will say that I did like that.
So moving on to what we didn't like,
Hmm.
because we were biting our tongues on some of those parts.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to really quick add on to something I said and the part I liked was just the execution, I will say, of the world building. Again, the idea is a really good idea, but I don't know if the world building was executed as well as maybe it should have been.
Mhm.
The pacing was so off for me. It was so slow to start. And it kind of like the book throws you into it. You with this girl named Isla and her like encampment of a fucking dome that she lives in forever. And there's these two fairy godmothers that coming out of fucking nowhere talking to her. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck's happening? And then she's like, I gotta go to the Centennial. And I'm like, okay, it was a lot.
It very much just chucks you in there. And even, like I said, even from the jump, the tournament starts pretty early on. And then Grimm
Mhm.
shows up early on and he's coming on hard and heavy. And you're like, you just met this girl. What is going on? What even about her have you had a chance to know that you like about her yet? And obviously, this is what we keep saying about how the twist at the end is what makes it good, because you start to finally figure out what the fuck is going on. But to be 400 pages in before you figure out what's going on, that's a commitment. That's a commitment.
Yeah, I had to commit hard because, like I said earlier, I did have to restart it because I took a long enough break where I was like, "I don't know what's going on." So I had to restart it. And then it was probably towards the middle when her and Oro started to work together to search for the heart. I was like, "Oh, okay, this is getting better. It's getting better. It's getting better." But it took me until the middle of the book to be like, "Okay, I like this." And then the plot twist, like I said, was good. That did suck me in and did make me want to read the second book. But also, I will say with the characters, I feel like the characters need more development. Of course, this is the first book of the series, but I feel like I shouldn't have to be like, damn, who's my favorite character? Because I don't have one.
Yeah.
I don't have one. There's no reader character connection for
Mhm.
me at all. Kind of there for me.
Mm.
She's just existing. Definitely not my favorite female main character I've ever read. So there's that. And then I will have to say, I literally put the book down during this part.
Oh.
I was like, I'm sorry, because I did see online that the writing was a little wonky. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll try to keep my eye out for it. When you find out that the heart they're searching for 50 days, okay, searching for this like fucking flower that they think this heart's growing from, it's actually an egg yolk. I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm like, is this a joke? I was reading it in my car. I wasn't driving,
Yeah.
but I was sitting in my car reading this book. And when he got to that part, they're like, oh, the egg yolk is the heart. I was like, is this for real right now? A fucking egg yolk, an egg yolk. I don't know. I literally hated that. I hated it that it was funny.
Yeah, 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 yeah. See, and that part didn't bother me. Of all the things in this book that I thought were bad, I could care less about the egg yolk. I get what she was trying to do with the like symbolism of rebirth and new life and why that would be a yolk would be literally the heart, like I said, new birth, new being, new whatever. So like that part didn't really bother me. I got what she was trying to do, even if it wasn't spot on or anything like that. I wouldn't be like, "Oh, that was a testament to amazing, writing or anything," but I was already forcing myself to read it at that point that I was just like, "Oh, okay, this whatever, at least they finally found the fucking heart." At least the moment that happened after that was when I was like, "Oh shit, starting to get good," because that was when she got shot in the heart and then Grimshaw shows up and Oro can't get to her because he can't come out in the sun and like that whole I was like, "Okay, at least finally some shit's popping off," because that's what I was waiting for. I see what she was trying to do there. So that doesn't like it's that Easter shit. It's literally Easter why eggs represent Easter. It's not groundbreaking, but I was so just give me some shit, give me some drama, give me something here. Up until that point, the best part of the book had been when Oro betrayed her in that meeting and when she fought those people on the beach. But also, that was like, even though that was a good part, it also wasn't because I was like, she keeps making dumb decisions. I don't like Isla. I'm sorry. I just don't care for Isla. Okay. She's just, I'm not saying that she cannot get better, but in Lightlark, I don't like her. She's not even just there for me. I just genuinely don't like her character. But that's okay. It's like you and Celeste came here. You had a plan. Now, granted, I realized she'd been manipulated from the jump, like by the people who were taking care of her, by Celeste. In the end, I do end up feeling bad for her. And I'm not saying that what she went through wasn't good, but without that context of the end of the book, I couldn't stand her character. I'm like, you and Celeste came in here with a plan. She's your best friend. You're supposed to be looking for this thing. You keep not doing that. You keep going back on your word. You keep making bad decisions and just going out and doing things that don't even make sense. You're powerless. And yet you keep like putting yourself in situations where not only could you get found out, but you could genuinely get hurt. Very immature to me. And that's okay in a first book because I've said it can give a character a growing path. So if she ends up becoming a character I like, she would not be the first character by any means that I did not like in the first book. And then I ended up liking her, a few books later. So that's not whatever. But I'm just talking about this book. She's the main character. So I have to be invested in what's happening with her because that's what the book is about. And so it's just, I don't know, it was tough for me. But anyways, back to this. The love triangle thing. I just, and maybe that's why I didn't enjoy this book as much, because this book kind of hinges on the love triangle thing. But the problem is that I don't think it was well done, because I didn't care about these dudes or if Isla ended up with either one of them. I just didn't care. Pick the blondie, pick the black-headed dude. I don't fucking care. I don't understand why either of them likes you. I'm not invested. I liked Oro once we started getting to know him. I was like, okay, this guy's cool. And then also when you find out that he has the ability to know every time she's lied to him, so he knows everything that she's been lying about the whole time, and he's still going through with it and being the guy that he is. I like Oro. And I like Grimm. Like, he didn't do anything. He was treating her nice, and he was doing funny things. And I love a overprotective, like, if you need me, pull this, I'll come in an instant. Super powerful. I'll show you what I could do. As far as the love between them goes, I wasn't invested in the relationship between her and either one of these characters. I genuinely couldn't have cared less about who she ended up with, or who picked her, or if she ended up with neither of them. I just didn't care. And that's why maybe if there had only been one love interest, it could have been a little bit more focused on building that relationship and making me invested and making me care. But because it was going back and forth between these two guys, and you didn't really know why either one of them, the motives that either one of them had, it made it hard for me to be invested, like I said. So, yeah. So I already don't like love triangles for that reason, but this is almost like the opposite of every other love triangle I haven't liked. I don't like love triangles that make me have to pick. I love them both and she has to pick one. I hate that. No, this is just like, why is this even in here? Like, why did either of these dudes even fucking like her? She's got a lot of growing up to do. Why are these men who hate each other, why do they even want this girl? I don't know. But anyways, that's the main things that I didn't like about it.
So if you're on Book Talk, you probably have heard of this book. Apparently there was a really big controversy with this book and the author. Book Talk in general is what I gathered from it. But so I guess the author mainly used TikTok to market her book, which I don't think is an issue at all. But people had an issue with it because she was marketing it incorrectly to them. When they finally read the book, they were like, wait, all this stuff that was supposed to be in this book that she kept hyping up wasn't actually in this book. Because she kept saying, oh, it's enemies to lovers. It's like true enemies to lovers. And it's not. Lightlark isn't. The enemy is supposed to be Grimm in the first book. But he's so nice to her. And I was like,
are you sure?
I don't know.
I took it as the enemy was Oro. And that goes to show you.
Or it's still, I don't know. But I guess the author just kept saying that there was supposed to be certain tropes in the book, certain things that were going to be happening that didn't happen. And some people were kind of like, this is why I don't go to Book Talk for recommendations anymore, because people hype up a book that shouldn't really be that hyped up, apparently. I will say the reason why I read this book was because of Book Talk, because people were hyping it up. And I was like, oh my God, I want to read this so bad. It looks so good. And I do follow the author on TikTok, and I don't think there's anything wrong with her advertising on TikTok. Like, good for her. She is making probably a killing now for herself, but definitely think that it did shed a light of, oh, you shouldn't trust Book Talk with everything, because a lot of people did not like this.
And yeah, that's totally fair. First of all, any kind of hype thing, if you look hard enough, you're going to find the people that don't like it. It's just, like, everybody knows reading is subjective. I don't think that there's an issue with her hyping up her own book. What I think there's an issue with is her saying things that just blatantly aren't true to get people to read it. That's also not a great way to build a fandom either, because then when people read it, they're going to realize that, and then they're not going to trust you. So if you decide to write another series, or you decide to continue the series that you started, you're going to get people that are like, I'm not reading this because you misled me or whatever. So I highly recommend not saying things that aren't true. Also, if you don't know, educate yourself, because I know some of the things that she was saying that might have ended up not being true. Like, you could say it's, and maybe in her opinion, she thought, no. If you don't know what that is, then educate yourself before you use it as a selling tactic, because then people that are reading it for that are gonna be upset when they're like, "What the
Mhm.
hell is this? This is not what you said it was gonna be." So, yeah, I don't have any problem with, like, book talk books or whatever. Me personally, whether a book's hyped, whether a book is not, whether a lot of people don't like a book, it's like movies. If it seems interesting to me, I will read it, I will watch it, and then I will make my own decision. Internet and social media is how our community stays together, and we could recommend this book to you and you could hate it worse than I did, or you could love it and it could be like a 5-star read for you. So I don't know. I wouldn't say don't necessarily like trust book talk, but I would just always say diversify who you're listening to, get different opinions, and always, always, always take everything with a grain of salt. Even if you've heard from 100,000 people that this is the best book ever written, go in there with the idea of, okay, this is just a good book that I'm interested in reading. Let me give it a shot. At least that's what I like to do, because otherwise, like, books will get ruined for you if you go in being like, "Oh, I'm ready to read the best book ever," and then you read it and you're just like, "This is just a
Yeah.
good book."
I've had that experience before for sure where a book was really hyped on TikTok and I read it and I was like, I was expecting it to be the most amazing book ever. And I went into it being like, oh my God, this could be so great. I wasn't really into it, but I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
apparently there was like a whole controversy about that. And a lot of people ended up review bombing the book
Yeah.
because they felt like the author sold it to them not in the correct way. But I don't know. I didn't know this book was controversial, but it is. I typed in, like, Lightlark on TikTok, and all this shit came up, and I was like, "Whoa,
I had
I'm
no
not part of the world."
I had no idea. I was gonna say that I don't know if we ever actually gave the Storygraph rating after we talked about it, but I think that if a 3.5 is review bombing, me personally, I think that that just might be a little accurate, or 3.7 or whatever it got. I don't know if I consider that bombing, because I just think that's pretty on par for where this
Mhm.
book is, if I'm being 100% honest. And and that's just my opinion. If you loved it and you gave it 5 stars, that is great. I'm not saying you're wrong. You have absolutely every right to feel this way. Maybe you experienced something different when you read it. Maybe it captured your attention from the first page and kept you engaged all the way through it. Maybe you loved Grimm and Oro and you really cared about the relationship between them. Maybe you had that character connection that was missing for us. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just, for me, and for a person who's in my romantasy journey, who has read as many romantasy books as I have, I think that definitely affected where it landed for me.
Alright, guys, so we're gonna stop talking shit about this book, and we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
We're gonna end this with a more positive note. We're going to discuss our favorite characters and our favorite moments from the book. For me, I was like, "What the fuck's happening?" You already mentioned this, but when Oro told everyone, like, all the leaders at the table, "Oh, Isla doesn't have powers,"
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my God, this fucking guy sucks. I hate
Yeah.
him." I was on the edge of my seat. I was just like, "Okay, I kinda get the hype now. I get the hype a little bit." And again, the plot twist was just I love a plot twist, though. I'm so annoying because if a book has a really good plot twist, but it wasn't that great the entire time, I'm like, "That was incredible." Do you have any favorite moments?
My favorite moments are probably, I did love that moment when Oro betrayed Isla, but at the same time,
Mhm.
I didn't think he was evil, so it just kinda, like, it took that
Right.
away a little bit, because in my mind, I was like, "There's a reason behind this, because he's not a bad guy." I don't know why I was so sure about that, so it hit, and it was a good moment. I was like, "Oh, shit, I can't believe he just did that." But it just wasn't, "Oh, holy well, anyways, yeah, and then, like I said, when she got shot in the heart, when they were getting the egg, I loved that moment, because
Mhm.
Grimm showing up and Oro not being able to get to her, that whole moment, I was like, "Okay, this is good." And then, obviously, the plot twist when Aurora announces herself. I will say that I think you said something about Grimm and working with her. I did think that Grimm ain't shit for that. I'm sorry. You knew that this woman
Mhm.
was deceiving your girl the whole time, and then you not only let her, but then you deceived her too, and took her memories from her, and then manipulated her. I don't know. I like Grimm. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, "You ain't shit for that."
Okay, so for some characters that we did like,
I loved Azul. Honestly, a little sad, because he's the one diverse character in the book,
literally the only person.
of course I liked him. But, okay, what happened to his husband and the way that he's
Mhm.
dealing with that trauma. I loved it. Second of all, his color's blue. Love that. Okay. The pictures and the fan art of him and the way I picture him in my head, he's amazing. I love him. Love his style. Like,
He's blinged
yes, he's
out.
like silver, blinged out, full blue fit. He's got the
Mm.
not even short hair, like almost no hair. I don't know. I really like Azul. And then the wings and the flying, I'm here for it. Also, I love his leadership style. I love that he is the leader of the only democratic sector of this world and that he truly believes in that. He's not just a leader of a democracy that still does whatever they want and says whatever they want and says things like, "It doesn't matter what the vote was, what I want goes." He's not like that. He's very much, "Hey, at the end of the day, even if I think it's wrong, even if I don't agree with it, if this is what the vote comes down to, this is what my people decided, then this is what we're gonna do." And I have to respect him and love him for that. And then also, when we find out that he was actually willing to sacrifice himself and die in order to save everybody else, I just love him. He's the standout character in these books, if you ask me. I don't know. I love him, and his friendship with Oro is super cute. But yeah, no, like Azul, I love him. I love his character.
Dude, I was gonna be so upset if, because you remember the whole part where Celeste gets trapped or
And then they
something,
find the ring.
basically?
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my god, it cannot be Azul," 'cause, like, he literally is, like, the only. I like Celeste at that point too, I
Yeah,
will say. I
yeah,
was like, "Her little baby Celeste, like the precious angel."
yeah.
And then, wait, it can't be Azul. He's also so nice, like, it can't be that. Please don't let it be him, and thank God it wasn't.
Yeah. I think that's another thing. I can still say I really like him and don't have any issues with him, love his character. So that's why he's, for me, the standout character in the whole thing. But yeah, because I did really like Celeste too. I did feel like she was giving Isla a little bit of leeway and stuff. But now it's just everything that you're thinking through this whole book changes in the last 20 pages. And that's the part that makes it so
Mhm.
hard to talk about. If you asked me before, I would have been like, without a question, Celeste is my favorite character. And still for me, as far as this book goes, she is one of my favorite characters, even with the ending, because she gave it pizzazz. I'll give her that. If there was no Celeste slash Aurora, there was no plot twist. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here for
Mhm.
that. And I don't mind an evil woman. She definitely did things that were questionable and definitely did things that I don't agree with and were fucked up, like having Tara and Poppy kill Isla's parents and all of that shit that we find out, like, definitely was fucked up. She's not a good person, she's evil, but I kind of like the drama that she brings to the story. So, I'm here for
Yeah. I also like Celeste, even though not in the way that I'm like, "Oh, I love her. I love her." No, I like her because she's a villain.
yeah. And up until that, like you said, she
Like,
was
she's
so
a.
cute and sweet.
Yeah, no, she really did a 360 or 180,
Yeah.
whatever, and, I wasn't expecting it, and, I liked that the underdog actually being the one who's planning all this shit, and she
Pulling the
would plan
strings,
shit.
bro. She was pulling the
I was
strings.
like, "Sweet baby Celeste?
My
There ain't no way."
yeah.
But no, she kept being this baddie and literally a baddie, but rip to her. Her
Yeah.
storyline was probably the most interesting of this whole book.
Not probably. It was, hands down. Without that, I wouldn't be recommending this book to people, if I'm being 100% honest. So, yeah, definitely with that. You were cruel and heartless, but holy shit, did you make this book worth reading? So, I'm here for it.
Yeah, man. Other than that, Azul and Celeste are really the only characters that I'm okay
I
with.
will say I didn't like Cleo, but at the same time, I put some respect on a badass woman in charge. I
Mhm.
didn't like the way that she was treating Isla, but like, low-key a baddie, another baddie, like, good for you, girl, running your shit. She
I mean,
wasn't taking
yeah.
any shit. She wasn't about to let these people change her mind. She was like, "I got a mission. I'm here to do what I gotta do. If I gotta kill you to do it, then I gotta kill you to do it."
So, honestly, will say this book doesn't have too many characters.
That's fair.
Was really not, so it's hard to choose which ones are our favorite at the moment, but with that being said, hopefully in book 2, we get some more characters and some more personality trait from some of the ones that we already know. Yes, I am keeping in mind, again, that this is the first book of the series, so it's probably not gonna be the best thing I've ever read.
Also, this is the author's first book, so there's that to be said. It
Eh,
is a debut novel. This is somebody who
true.
has less experience, and also somebody who's building up a world. And that is something that both of
Mhm.
us would agree was actually interesting and worth learning about and worth getting to know. And this book is like, it's a cool world, it's a cool concept. And so definitely this book laid down the groundwork for, I'm sure, what's to come, whether it be a trilogy, a saga, whatever. But like we've said, we definitely, at the very least, recommend that you check it out. Give it a shot. If you are a fan of fantasy, if you are a fan of fiction, if you like YA books, if you enjoy a little bit more of a slow build, a build up to a greater plot, then we would definitely recommend this. Obviously, if you've made it with us to this point, you've probably already read the book. So I think our final thoughts on it are just that it wasn't perfect. It was a good first starter book, debut novel. It was worth continuing the series for us. We have both read the next book and we will be talking about it in next week's episode. And it's definitely worth continuing the journey, in our opinion. And so overall, we would say that it was okay.
It was
It
okay.
was okay. And that's okay. Anyways, guys, we hope that you enjoyed our episode on Lightlark. Next week, like I said, we will be covering Nightbane, the sequel. Email or DM us any other romantasy books that you want us to read or cover. We do have an episode on A Fate Inked in Blood coming up after this as well. Another romantasy, a little bit more on the adult side that we can't wait to get into. Please make sure to check out some of our other episodes that are already out. We have over 20, plenty of content for you to check out, especially if you love ACOTAR and the Massverse as much as we do. Finally, again, if you're still with us and you're watching us on YouTube, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast platform, then take some time to give us a rating and review us. If you have social media, give us a follow over on TikTok and Instagram. We have pages over on both of those. Lots of fun content, lots of different things, and info on any episodes that are coming up, any other books that we would be covering, and just general information about what's going on in the romantasy world. Also, that would be a great place for you to let us know anything you'd like us to talk about or reach out there. We love this community. We hope that we didn't go too hard on this book. It was a lot of fun, us talking about it. And yeah, we can't wait to talk about Nightbane next week. So thank you guys so much. We
Mhm.
really appreciate you. As always, we want to leave you guys with a quote. So the only way not to fear death is to meet it. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.